Hello and welcome to my virtual presentation. I'm your host, Neko Austin, or simply Austin if you prefer. And this is going to be a video where it's going to be a follow-up to two videos that I've done, but also a response video as well. I don't do reactions because it's been 2 years since I last did a reaction video, and honestly, I'm very sloppy when it comes to that. So, which is why I'm going to be referencing people rather than reacting to videos. Um, and yeah, this is also going to be a continuation to two other videos I did. One of which is where I talk about the free thinker's trap, which basically can be summed up as there's a whole lot of rage bait and it's causing a lot of people to rage. Although I did misspell the name of the Pokemon Tauros, accidentally spelling the Tauros as in the zodiac sign, I think it is. I forget. I forget. But yeah, using Pokemon as a reference, so people like whipping themselves up into a frenzy, and letting rage control them, which in turn can be very sloppy and ineffective. And it's also going to be a follow-up to another video I did where I talked about how people make reference to idiocracy and how I view the world as being more akin to the anime Paranoia Agent, simply due to how people let media control themselves. Now, with all that said of the long intro, these three people I'm going to be doing a video I'm going to be referencing for my video. Shoe on Head, and yeah, I'm basically jumping onto a bandwagon in a sense, which is why I'm saying this is not a reaction video. Leanna K, whose title is a bit of a seems to be a Taylor Swift reference, and I keep forgetting the name. Nissy Social. I might be pronouncing that. It's a channel that I'm basically new to. But yes, all of this are probably enough related to the topic that I want to talk about, which is cynicism. And I know you're probably going to be confused. What do these three women and people getting angry and falling for media have to do with cynicism? Well, kind of a lot. Now, I do understand that, when a lot of people think of cynicism, they think of one definition, which is like some remarks that are like sarcastic and or sneering. And before I go on, I'm making reference to Webster's New World Dictionary, third college edition, printing 1988, for the definition of cynical here, which is believing that a person's actions are motivated solely by selfishness, denying the sincerity of people's motives, actions, and values. Basically, it's implied that there is a contemptuous disbelief, rather, in human goodness and sincerity. And this, I believe, is like a big part of not just how people approach media and the arts, but also how people are when it comes to others. And this relates heavily to what these three women were talking about. To start things off with Shu, she had talked about how you got media that's now, instead of talking about the whole male loneliness epidemic or the loneliness epidemic in general, which obviously I say cynicism is a part of it, because of people not believing that there's genuine goodness, or people just don't believe others are sincere, so there is that. But also the fact that a lot of news outlets have people actually blaming men and blaming video games. Got people saying how the whole idea of the stay-at-home son, which was nothing but a joke, but some people decide to take that joke and treat it like it's a serious thing. The old serious business stuff. Been a long time since I've seen Fox News make such a fumble, but of course it isn't just Fox News, you got others as well. And this does tie into a lot of what Leanna Kay was talking about in her video, as well as other videos she's posted. Which is that you get what I know is a lot of people lashing out in anger. They get whipped up and act with rage, but they have no clear-cut target. And as soon as they find someone that they believe is similar, well, they direct their rage at that target. It's that whole thing I mentioned previously of people acting like a raging Tauros. I'm talking about the Pokemon, of course, where they get whipped up and they go on the attack, despite the fact that there's literally no reason to attack, you know? But a lot of it does come down. And I do believe that part of this is the news, especially with a lot of the stuff that people say do seem to be fairly identical to what's been said by these newscasters and other personalities within journalism. In which case, you got people who get angry and they assume that the person they're attacking follows the same mindset as the journal. And if not the mindset of the journal, then it's most likely the whole thing of listening to someone who was influenced by the news. So even if you're not watching it, you could very well be influenced by it because of someone else who's influenced by it, and then in turn use that to basically come at you, which can in turn lead to, like I said, it's kind of like a very messy chain reaction in a sense. In which case, you got people who do just go on to attack. They don't think about what's ahead of them, and worst of all, like I said previously, they work themselves up in a rage. And much like I said in my video, I was talking about idiocracy and paranoia agent. You gotta take a step back to look at the bigger picture. Otherwise, you end up falling into these traps, the rage bait, and stuff like that, as well as other people who are influenced by rage bait and other anger-inducing nonsense. Because a lot of this ignorance from these people, these TV personalities, do tend to be nonsense. Even if there's a possibility that some of these people genuinely believe the things they are saying, it could very well just be that not that they want to cause rage, but because it's the only thing they understand, Kind of like Tauros without the technical machines, For those who don't know Pokemon, technical machines are these devices that give Pokemon special moves, which is how you could have a bull that's like shooting energy beams and creating earthquakes, and rather than having these supernatural abilities, you basically just have a three-tailed bull that just gets angry and attacks. And yeah, a lot of these people, they don't have the technical machines to understand that they are going by a very limited moveset, And I'm sure some people say, oh, that's offensive. I don't care. It makes the perfect sense to me, Like you go to like Bulbapedia or Cerebi and look up Tauros, Gen 1 Tauros, and you'll see like not a lot of moves and only gets like really good moves when you teach that three-tailed bulls how to like create earthquakes and I think thunder as well. I forget the entire move set of that Pokemon, but yeah, it's people operating under a limited move set, so they don't understand the kind of damage that they're doing. So there's that. And this does relate also to basically the video down there, the whole thing on black fatigue, because you got a lot of people with this limited knowledge. They don't have the whatever the equivalent would be for technical machines to understand what's going on. They see the same thing over and over, and unfortunately that too contributes to cynicism because, well, you don't see anything else that's out there, and next thing you know, you end up doubting that someone else is good, Such as how the whole constant media portrayal of ghetto life will in turn have people having a negative view of those who live in the ghettos. And unfortunately, oftentimes it's Afro-Caribbean people who are seen as ghetto people, despite the fact that you have other types of ghettos of specific ethnicities, but they don't talk about that in media. And they certainly don't talk about that on the news. Instead, they just focus on one thing with the news. And I know I'm going in circles here, but it needs to be hammered in that you have people with a limited moveset, a limited understanding. They don't have the technical machines to understand that they are causing problems. And then with people constantly lashing out at each other, constantly raging, not understanding that if they took a step back, they would realize what is going on. But yeah, unfortunately, we got the problem with cynicism, growing cynicism. And rather than people believing that there could be more to someone or that someone can be genuine or someone can be good, they stick with what limited knowledge they have, what limited move pool to use. And I do believe this is a large part of why there is a big problem with modern society. And initially when I did this video, it was going to be just about media, but then I've seen Shiwan Head do her video, and I figured, okay, that's something I will reference. And then the various videos that Leanna K's been doing. And although I haven't seen today's video, I have seen past 2 days videos. And yeah, it's a Wednesday that I'm recording this on. And after Leanna K, I've seen, like I said, I've seen the Black Fatigue video. And all of which helps to give a bigger picture of what's going on. Now, can I be wrong? Perhaps. Perhaps I am wrong. But at the same time, I don't see anything else that does make sense. And if any of these women have anything that can help me to better understand stuff, honestly, I'm all ears. So with all that said, I'm Neko Austin, and I thank you for watching.